In the sun-soaked Riviera ballroom of 1964, a seismic shift was brewing. The king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, found himself spinning with a new rival, an actress whose raw talent and electric moves threatened to upstage him at every turn. Beyond the glittering costumes and breathless fans lay an unnoticed element, a silent contest of charisma that nearly rewrote Hollywood's power dynamics. But before the cameras rolled and the marquee lights told one story, a more provocative tale simmered backstage. What hidden tensions truly simmered between these two titans? So, how did this electrifying duo first come together? And were the sparks instant, both on and off camera? The year was 1963, and the MGM soundstages pulsed with potent energy. A king, Elvis Presley, was about to meet a force who could arguably match his own incandescence. The sparks weren't just immediate, they threatened a full-blown cinematic conflagration. Hollywood in the early 60s was a realm of meticulously crafted dreams, and Elvis Presley already navigated this world as a cultural monarch. His film career was a reliable engine of success, churning out hits. Into this established firmament then arrived Ann-Margret Elvis, a Swedish-American dynamo. Her star ascended with fierce velocity after her electrifying turn in Bye Bye Birdie. Her energy wasn't mere youthful exuberance, it was a tangible current. MGM executives, planning their lavish production Viva Las Vegas, knew they needed more than just a pretty face. They needed a co-star whose brilliance wouldn't be extinguished by Presley's legendary presence. Their first encounter is now etched in Hollywood legend, occurring on the vibrant, chaotic set of Viva Las Vegas. As she would later recount in her memoirs, Ann-Margret approached this meeting with focused professionalism. She understood the magnitude of Elvis, yet remained secure in her own burgeoning artistic power. Elvis, in turn, reportedly greeted her with his famed Southern charm, a warmth that could disarm anyone. Yet, keen observers might have noted an instant recognition in his eyes. This was no ordinary starlet. Ann-Margret arrived with a formidable reputation. Her uninhibited, high-voltage performance style was already industry talk. Film Inc. magazine later observed she had demonstrably out-energized her three previous male co-stars. The implication was clear. Many had tried to keep pace, but few truly succeeded. This inherent dynamism set Ann-Margret distinctly apart, paving the way for a uniquely charged interaction with Presley. The same Film Inc. suggested Elvis was perhaps the first leading man with the sheer magnetism to genuinely match her. This wasn't simply about fame. It was an affinity rooted in a shared elemental core of performance. Their connection bypassed typical Hollywood pleasantries, forging a profound, immediate bond, according to credible accounts. It was cemented by a deep, intuitive understanding of music. Ann-Margret herself stated it clearly, "We experienced music in the same visceral way." They seemed to communicate through an unspoken language of rhythm. This powerful musical empathy would later become the unshakable foundation of their iconic on-screen partnership. The atmosphere on set became a subject of whispers. Was this palpable rapport merely professional admiration between two exceptional talents? Or did unmistakable romantic undertones begin their seductive weave from that first electricity-laden meeting? Such tantalizing accounts, whether meticulously factual or gently embellished, undeniably fanned the flames of public perception. There was an irresistible, almost fated magnetism drawing these two together. The studio, one can safely assume, observed these developments with considerable satisfaction. Viva Las Vegas was conceived as a cinematic spectacle, and its ultimate triumph hinged upon an undeniable, white-hot chemistry between its principal stars. The burden of expectation was immense, the professional stakes were extraordinarily high. Yet, from the moment Elvis Presley and Ann-Margret first met, it was apparent the film's critical ingredient had been effortlessly achieved. What subsequently transpired before the cameras was more than mere acting. It was an authentic, unscripted ignition. A fusion of intensely powerful personalities occasionally threatened to eclipse the very motion picture it intended to serve. This raw connection laid the fertile ground for some of the most memorable musical sequences ever filmed. Imagine being on that set. Could you feel the electricity? What did Elvis truly think when he saw Ann-Margret's talent firsthand? This shared passion for music quickly translated to the dance floor. But did one of them truly outshine the other, leading to scenes so hot they became legendary? Could anyone truly outshine Elvis? When Ann-Margret and Elvis Presley met on the dance floor, they were not simply co-stars executing steps. They became, in Ann-Margret's own unforgettable words, virtual mirror images, unleashing a kinetic passion that practically set the celluloid itself on fire. The rehearsals for Viva Las Vegas were sessions of intense, focused creation. These weren't casual run-throughs, they were crucibles where raw talent was forged into screen legend. Behind-the-scenes photographs, precious few though they are, capture glimpses of this exacting process. Elvis and Ann-Margret, often in simple rehearsal attire, their faces glistening with effort, were entirely dedicated to perfecting moments of pure, unadulterated screen magic. The choreography for these now iconic scenes was primarily crafted by David Winters, a significant and somewhat surprising choice. Winters was, remarkably, Ann-Margret's own former dance student, and she championed him, recommending him for this pivotal role in Viva Las Vegas. This was Winters' first major film choreographer credit, a bold leap into the big leagues. His profound understanding of Ann-Margret's explosive capabilities, range, and sheer fearless energy was undoubtedly intimate and unparalleled. He knew what she could do, and he knew how to push her. Assisting David Winters was the vibrant, immensely talented Toni Basil, who herself appeared as a featured dancer in the film. She was the girl with the red dress during the memorable pool scene, a flash of brilliant color and movement. Her insights into the rehearsal period are invaluable. Basil spoke of teaching Elvis and Ann-Margret their intricate, often physically demanding routines separately at first. Each star honed their parts in isolation, Elvis working on his signature power, Ann-Margret refining her dazzling technique. Imagine the anticipation on set. Then came the moment of truth, the moment of bringing these two supernovas together on the same dance floor. Toni Basil's reaction to their first combined rehearsal was pure, unadulterated exclamation. "Wow," she recalled, her voice still echoing the astonishment decades later. "Whoa, oh my God." The fusion was instant. The chemistry wasn't just visible, it was a palpable shockwave. Ann-Margret described this profound, almost symbiotic connection with arresting, vivid clarity. Music ignited a fiery, pent-up passion inside Elvis and inside me, she revealed in her memoirs. This was not merely professional enthusiasm, it was a shared, almost primal combustion. That phrase, pent-up passion, hints at wells of energy, perhaps even frustration, finally finding their explosive release through dance, and through each other. We looked at each other and saw virtual mirror images. When Elvis thrust his pelvis, mine slammed forward too. This incredibly frank and physical imagery speaks volumes. It suggests a synchronization that transcends mere learned steps or careful counts. It hinted at an almost telepathic understanding of movement, rhythm, and unashamed energy. Watch their dance sequences now, especially the iconic, explosive lead into the song, "Come On Everybody." The visual energy is almost overwhelming. It leaps from the screen. They move as one perfectly integrated unit, yet, crucially, each retains their distinct, powerful, individual persona. It is a duet of equals, a dance of fire and grace, a dance of power and precision. The intensity remains palpable even through the filter of time, decades later. This was not just good choreography expertly executed, this was something far more elemental. This was lightning captured. The sheer, undeniable force of their connection was something Ann-Margret herself acknowledged as extraordinary, almost otherworldly. "We both felt a current, an electricity that went straight through us," she explained, attempting to articulate an experience that perhaps defied simple language. This was not a sensation easily dismissed or rationalized. It would become a force we couldn't control. This uncontrollable quality is absolutely key to understanding their dynamic. It suggests that what audiences witnessed, what captivated millions, was not entirely manufactured by Hollywood artifice. It was an authentic outpouring, a genuine, spontaneous phenomenon that erupted when these two talents converged. Even before Viva Las Vegas, Ann-Margret's exceptional prowess as a dancer was widely recognized, a matter of public record. Life magazine's glowing coverage of her breakout role in the 1963 film Bye Bye Birdie declared, with journalistic flair, that her torrid dancing almost replaces the central heating in the theater. She brought this same incendiary, almost dangerously potent talent to the set with Elvis. Perhaps in his presence, feeling that unique mirroring energy, she amplified it even further. Her movements were breathtakingly precise, yet thrillingly wild, impeccably controlled, yet conveying a sense of utter, joyful freedom. Was this level of authentic, explosive expression simply the result of good direction, diligent practice, and natural ability? Or was it something more profound, a true once-in-a-lifetime meeting of artistic souls ignited by mutual fire? Their dancing was not just scripted movement, it felt like an authentic, spontaneous expression of their mutual understanding of rhythm and music. Every glance, shared smile, and synchronized turn confirmed this deep, unspoken rapport. It inevitably raises a tantalizing, almost provocative question. Had Elvis Presley, the undisputed king of rock and roll, a man who had danced with numerous leading ladies and whose image was synonymous with charismatic movement, ever experienced this exact level of profound, almost startling synchronization before? Was Ann-Margret truly unique in her remarkable ability to keep up with him, meet him, challenge him, and merge with him on the dance floor in such an utterly dynamic and unforgettable way? The visual evidence preserved in the film is utterly compelling. It invites scrutiny, it demands a verdict. Look at them move. Truly look. Do you see that virtual mirror image connection in its full glory? And considering all of this, who truly had the edge in these exhilarating, almost competitive dance-offs? But as Ann-Margret's star blazed ever brighter on set, as her talent shone with such undeniable, almost blinding luminescence, did this incredible, uncontrollable energy start to make some people uncomfortable? Perhaps even the king himself. Did Ann-Margret steal the show? Uncomfortable, rumor has it, Ann-Margret was not just dancing with Elvis, she was dancing circles around everyone. The spotlight seemed to follow her every electrifying move. This was not a subtle shift, it was a magnetic pull. The argument that Ann-Margret Olsen unequivocally steals the stage and the movie in pivotal numbers like "Come On Everybody" is not a new one. It has been voiced by critics and fans alike for decades. Gold Radio, reflecting on the dynamic, stated plainly that she steals the show. This is a bold claim, a claim that challenges the established hierarchy of an Elvis Presley picture. Yet the visual evidence on screen makes a compelling case. Her energy is relentless, and her talent is undeniable. It is almost impossible to look away. Newsner, a source known for its keen observations of classic Hollywood, put it even more directly: Ann-Margret is the embodiment of the phrase, "dance like no one's watching." This captures her uninhibited, joyful abandon. But it also hints at a performer so consumed by her art, so in command of her instrument, that the presence of others, even the king himself, seems to fade into the background. Her talent commands attention, it explodes on screen. The film's director, George Sidney, could not ignore this magnetism. Reports from the set tell of his intense focus on Ann-Margret. He lavished her with countless camera angles, multiple takes captured every nuance of her dance, and close-ups highlighted her expressive face and dynamic moves. Sometimes this focus came at Elvis' expense. His screen time shrank, his presence dimmed. Why would a seasoned director risk this? The answer is clear: exceptional talent demands recognition. Sidney saw something extraordinary. He had to capture it. Her explosive presence was vital, electrifying, the film's heartbeat. Now, consider a curious observation from fans. Some noticed Elvis' lip-syncing faltered during energetic scenes. Distracted, even. Why? A popular theory suggests Ann-Margret's mesmerizing performance drew attention away. Her energy was so captivating that it may have affected Elvis' focus. Their dance styles contrast sharply. Elvis with his signature moves, the swiveling hips, the energetic leg shakes, a raw rock and roll energy that had captivated the world. Ann-Margret, however, brought a different, potent arsenal. She had formal dance training from the Marjorie Young School of Dance, and this technical foundation was evident. Yet, it was infused with a natural, almost uncontainable, high energy. Her style was a whirlwind of precision and abandon. She could not help but dominate the visual space they shared. Her talent was a force that refused to be muted. This raises a crucial, almost delicate question. How did Elvis Presley, the undisputed king, a man accustomed to being the center of any universe he occupied, truly feel about a co-star who could potentially, and so visibly, upstage him in his own movie? Especially in an arena, which is the core of his image as a musical performance and dance. Was there a flicker of professional jealousy? A moment of discomfort? Or was it pure admiration for a fellow artist, an artist operating at the peak of her powers? The historical record is open to interpretation. But the on-screen evidence is there for all to see. Let's look closely at this scene again. Do you think Ann-Margret is outdancing Elvis here? Could you take your eyes off her? Be honest. Her performance commands attention, it demands a reaction. This on-screen supernova, this explosion of talent and charisma, was not going unnoticed. Behind the scenes, the whispers of admiration were perhaps beginning to mingle with murmurs of concern. A battle for control, for the very soul of the film's focus, was brewing. So, what exactly happened when the cameras stopped rolling, and the real power plays began? When the cameras stopped, the real drama unfolded. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis' iron-fisted manager, was reportedly seeing red, and it wasn't just the dazzling Vegas lights causing his fury. The on-screen chemistry between Elvis and Ann-Margret was undeniable, perhaps too undeniable for some. Parker, a master strategist and the man who had meticulously crafted the Elvis Presley mythos, perceived a threat. Not necessarily a romantic threat, but a professional one, a threat to the singular, unchallenged dominance of his star client. The film was titled Viva Las Vegas, an Elvis Presley picture. Yet, the buzz, the sheer visual energy, often seemed to orbit Ann-Margret. Her talent was a wildfire, and Parker's job was to control wildfires, especially those that might scorch the king. Colonel Parker's fury, according to detailed accounts like those from Elvis Infonet, was primarily directed at George Sidney, the film's director. Parker accused Sidney of deliberately attempting to shift the film's focus, of trying to make Ann-Margret the true star at Elvis' expense. Parker reportedly reminded the producers, in no uncertain terms, that this was an Elvis Presley picture, his investment, his brand. He allegedly fumed that Sidney was giving Ann-Margret too many favorable close-ups and too many retakes for her already spectacular dance numbers. Sidney, a seasoned filmmaker, defended his choices, arguing Ann-Margret was a sensational talent the audience would adore, and that her vibrant presence enhanced the film and Elvis. But Parker was not easily swayed by artistic arguments. His concerns were commercial, about maintaining control and keeping Elvis at the absolute apex. The conflict escalated, and the tension on set became palpable. Two specific duets, meticulously rehearsed and filmed, were unceremoniously excised. Boss, a playful, witty number, was one. Today, Tomorrow, and Forever, a tender, deeply romantic ballad, was the other. The latter, in particular, was reportedly a beautiful sequence, with Elvis serenading Ann-Margret in an intimate, heartfelt moment. Footage or stills from this deleted scene, sometimes shared by sources like Country Rebel, hint at its emotional power. Its removal undeniably shifted the film's romantic emphasis, lessening the on-screen development of their love story. Why were these scenes cut? The official reasons might have been pacing or running time, but the rumored reason was Colonel Parker's direct intervention. He allegedly felt these duets gave Ann-Margret too much prominence, too much equal footing with Elvis. The song, The Lady Loves Me, remained, but the collaborative landscape had been demonstrably altered. Another layer to this behind-the-scenes drama was Elvis' own reported feelings. Sources suggest Elvis himself complained to Parker, allegedly feeling Sidney was, indeed, trying to cut him out of the picture. Fox News even highlighted director George Sidney's claim that Elvis was, at times, envious of the considerable attention Ann-Margret received. This reported envy allegedly led to a specific directorial choice for the film's final scene, a split screen, ensuring both stars received equal, yet separate, visual billing, a compromise, or perhaps a concession. This, then, is the core of what happened. Despite the professional fireworks and the controversially cut scenes, an undeniable, deeply personal connection had been forged between Elvis and Ann-Margret, a bond that seemed to transcend the on-set politics. But was it a true soulmate connection, as some whispered? Or was it, perhaps, just another dazzling illusion expertly crafted under the bright, unforgiving lights of Hollywood? Ann-Margret once confessed, in words both tender and haunting, that Elvis Presley was her soulmate. But as romantic as that sounds, the truth might not lie entirely in the fairy tale, not with Priscilla back at Graceland and under the bright, ruthless lights of Hollywood. So, what did she really mean? And how deep did that connection truly run? In her memoir, My Story, Ann-Margret never quite paints Elvis as the one that got away. Instead, she describes something subtler, more enduring. She says they were cut from the same cloth, an eerie, almost spiritual description that leans less toward happily ever after and more toward an eternal mirror, someone who simply understood. Behind the scenes, things did get physical, fast. Lamar Fickey, a close member of Elvis' inner circle, once said plainly, it got hot and heavy. And according to Marty Lacker, another Memphis mafioso, they really cared a lot about each other. These were not casual words. They came from men who had watched Elvis rotate through countless relationships with cool detachment. But with Ann-Margret, something felt different. Their intimacy had its quirks, its code. Ann-Margret's letters to Elvis were often signed Bunny or Thumper, a private nickname laced with childlike affection and grown-up subtext. And Elvis, he commissioned a round pink bed just for her, not for Graceland, for her. This was no passing fling. But back in Memphis, someone else waited, someone who had already given up her teen years for the king, Priscilla Bewley. The presence of Priscilla casts a long, silent shadow across every passionate memory Ann-Margret dared to share. And Ann-Margret never pretended otherwise. She wrote, "Those factors were not just Priscilla. They were duty, image, and empire. Elvis was not just a man, he was a machine now. He belonged to RCA, to Colonel Parker, and to America. And love, true love, did not always fit on the schedule. There were whispers, too, that the studio may have fanned the flames. The chemistry between Ann and Elvis was electric. But was it all real? Or part of the Viva Las Vegas marketing campaign? The answer likely lies somewhere in between. Theirs was a bond that began as genuine, maybe even sacred. But Hollywood has a way of amplifying affection, exaggerating passion, and monetizing chemistry. And on set, things shifted, subtly, uncomfortably. Still, the affection between the two never faded. Even decades later, Ann-Margret speaks of Elvis with warmth, with reverence, never bitterness. But even that warmth could not save them from what loomed. Fox News once summed it up in 6 chilling words: the romance couldn't last. Why not? Was it because of the rivalries, the managers, the fans? Or was it simply that two twin flames cannot burn forever without consuming each other? Whatever the reason, one thing is certain: soulmates or not, their story did not end in a chapel. It ended in silence. And perhaps in another lifetime, that pink bed might have found its place at Graceland. Before we close that chapter, let us rewind just a bit, because the way their story ended may hold the real heartbreak, the quiet breakup, the unspoken promise, and the one final gesture that said more than words ever could. Beyond the spotlight, what could have been? While their romance may have faded, the echoes of their electric partnership in Viva Las Vegas resonated for decades. After the lights dimmed and the curtain fell, one question refused to die quietly in the hearts of their fans: what could have been? By the time Viva Las Vegas had finished its cinematic run, Ann-Margret was not simply riding the coattails of Elvis fame. Each time Ann-Margret opened a show, a familiar floral arrangement would arrive backstage, shaped like a guitar, unmistakably Elvis. It was not merely nostalgia. It was a gesture layered in meaning, respect, affection, perhaps a subtle rebellion against the Colonel's rigid control of Elvis' public image. Inside Viva Las Vegas, he found a way to acknowledge her brilliance. At the time of Viva Las Vegas release, the public saw only on-screen flirtation, unaware of the deep dynamic, intense rehearsals, or cut musical numbers. It was only later, through memoirs and accounts, that the true fire behind the film came to light. This begs the question: was the film's enduring appeal solely due to its spectacle, or to that barely controlled tension and unspoken dance-off? Many critics now argue the chemistry between Ann-Margret and Elvis was among cinema's most electrifying moments, a spark too raw to be scripted. One wonders if, had her role been amplified, Elvis's future films might have embraced stronger female leads or more emotionally charged stories. What's certain is that Viva Las Vegas captured something rare: two forces meeting, testing each other, and elevating the entire production. Watching it now, knowing the full story, you'll undoubtedly see it differently, searching for the lingering glances, unscripted moves, and undeniable magic. With the truth revealed, it's clear Ann-Margret didn't just keep up with Elvis, she pushed him. Her movement was pure fire, unapologetically magnetic. The balance shifted on set, leading to Colonel Parker's intervention, clipped scenes, and managed energy. Yet, the unspoken dance-off was already etched into the celluloid. Audiences saw chemistry, but the stars felt competition. Their story is a collision of star power, affection, and ambition. Go back, watch Viva Las Vegas again. Observe her feet, his eyes. Then ask yourself, did Ann-Margret outdance the king?